ACT Prep Task 4 FOIL and Distance. When you see parentheses that are touching, we need to distribute all of the terms from the first parentheses with all of the terms from the second parentheses. So in math, there are multiple ways to solve problems. I'm going to show you two ways to solve when you see two parenthesis sets that are touching. So the first way is we're going to write out the first term of the first parenthesis set. And I'm going to write down everything in the second parenthesis set. Then I'm going to go back to the first parenthesis set and write down that second term. It's a positive 3, so I'm going to say plus 3. And I rewrite everything again in that second parenthesis set. When we get to this step, we need to distribute all of the terms. So we're going to distribute the 2x to the 5x and the 2x to the negative 2. When we distribute, we multiply. So we're going to do 2x times 5x. 2 times 5 is 10. When we multiply variables, we add the exponents. When you have a variable without an exponent visible, it's an imaginary 1. So we're going to say 10x, 1 plus 1 is 2. So that would be 10x squared. So now we're going to go 2x times negative 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and we can't forget about our x. Next, we're going to distribute the 3 to the second set of parentheses by multiplying. 3 times 5x gives us a positive 15x, and 3 times negative 2 gives us a negative 6. When we get to this step, we're going to combine like terms, and I'm actually going to write down CLT as you learned in the last task to combine like terms, and that's often an abbreviation you may see to remind you to combine like terms in this row. So we look at the first term, we have an x squared, we don't have any other x squareds. The second term, we have an x, and we happen to have another x here, so I'm going to underline them because they're alike, and we have a negative 6 all by himself. So we're going to bring down the 10x squared because we can't combine it with anything, and we're just going to do this. Negative 4 plus 15, which gives us a positive 11, and since they both have x's, it's just an x, and we bring down the minus 6. And this is our final answer. I'm going to show you another way that you may be familiar with to complete such a problem, and it's called the box method. So I'd like for you to watch how this works, and if you like this way, then please use this strategy to solve when you have two sets of parentheses. So in this case, we're going back to this problem here, and I am going to erase my arrows so that we can see the original problem. There we go. So we're going to take the first parenthesis set, and I'm going to write it out here. So we have a 2x. I'm going to give this a 2x. We have a 3, so I'm going to give this a 3. Now I look at my second set of parentheses, and I have a 5x. I'm going to put that on top of the box, and I'm negative 2 or minus 2, so the negative sign goes with that 2. And this reminds you of an old-fashioned multiplication chart, and we're going to do just that. 5 times 2 is 10. When we multiply variables, we add the exponents. So it's like a 1 and a 1 equals 2. We're going to go down to this square here. 5x times 3 gives us a 15x. Now we go to this outside box by taking the 2x, and we're going to multiply it by negative 2, and that gives us a negative 4x. And then lastly, we're going to go at the very end. We have a positive 3 times a negative 2, which gives us a negative 6. And the way this box method works is these guys will go together. They are alike. So our final answer will be 10x squared. And we're going to do this 15 minus 4x, which is 11x. And then our last term is minus 6. So notice two different ways to get the exact same answer. Okay, so the top part was about foiling. The second part is about distance. And when you want to find the distance between two coordinate points, there's a formula that you need to memorize. And this is super, super important for this section here. So this is the distance formula. We're going to go ahead and identify what each of these are representative. So this x2 right here, and I do want you to write this out, this represents the second x value. The minus x1 represents the first x value. So that makes sense, right? x2, second x value, x1, first x value. And the same is true for our y's. We have y2, second y value, y1, first y value. I do want you to take a look at all these symbols. We have a square root button, and you're going to need to be familiar with that on your calculator. The parentheses in the middle, that is a subtraction sign, so that's a given. When you plug these numbers in, it's always going to be a number minus a number. Over here, it's always going to be a number minus a number. In the middle, there's always a plus sign, and notice here that each of these sets are squared. So if you forget any of those steps, your answer is not going to be correct. So this section, you really need to pay attention to detail. It's not hard. You just have to pay attention to detail. So let's do a couple examples. So it says a line segment has endpoints at -4, 0, and 0, 5. How long is it? So let's first start by labeling our x and y value. And over off to the side, I just want you to put a reminder that the x comes first and the y comes second. Always, always, always. Okay, so that's just kind of like a remembering bubble. Okay, so since this is our first coordinate set, we're going to label this x as x1 and this y as y1. Makes sense, right? First coordinate point, there are our first x and our first y. Since this is our second coordinate set, we're going to go ahead and label it x2, y2. I highly, highly recommend when you have examples like this and you're on your own running, you label these guys, because when you go to plug them in, look, up here, they want the second x value. So we know we're going to plug in the 0 first. So let's go ahead and start by drawing our square root symbol. And I'm just going to set it up empty so that you can see what every single problem is going to look like. Okay, so that's kind of our model. We're going to plug in a number here, 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 and here. And it always, that's a 2, not a question mark. Always, always, always has minuses in the parentheses set, a plus in between, and they're both squared. So up here it says our second x value. Since I labeled it so nicely, I know that we're going to use our 0. x2 is 0. That comes first. Second in the formula says x1. Well, this guy is our x1. It's so nice when we label it. Notice there was a minus in the formula, and the x1 happened to be a -4. So please, again, be aware of these minor details. This says 0 minus -4. Let's move on to the second part. We're going to use our second y value. We labeled it so nicely. We can see that it's a 5. And our first y value, which is right here labeled again nicely, is also a 0. So in math and in algebra, you do a lot of rewriting. So we're going to rewrite that square root symbol. We haven't done anything with it. I'm going to go ahead and show you, again, kind of the format of this. We're going to go ahead and do this. 0 minus -4. Well, what we know about when you subtract a negative, it actually becomes a positive. So we have a 4. Remember, it's going to be squared. And 5 take away 0 is 5. Remember, it's going to be squared. Again, some more rewriting. We've done nothing with that square root, but we can go ahead and throw this in our calculator, or if you know your squares, you can do it in your head. This says 4 squared. 4 times 4 is 16. We're going to bring over our plus sign, and we have 5 squared, which is 25. Some more rewriting. We're going to go ahead and simplify since these are like terms. 16 plus 25. And when you add them together, you get 41. In your calculator, you're actually going to find the second button. It's a second function. And I'm looking at my calculator now. You're looking for the function of the square root button, and it's in yellow. And when you do that in your calculator, square root, you're going to put in 41 equals And it comes out to 6.4 is our final answer. That is the distance between these 2 points. For the ACT question, it says the expression, these two parentheses sets are equivalent to what? And they give us 5 choices, multiple choice. Up in the beginning section, I showed you 2 different ways. You can lay them all out by separating them or do the box method. I'm going to do just one of those methods. I'm just going to be distributing the first method. I'm not going to be doing the box method, but again, you are welcome to do that. So as a reminder, we're going to take the first term and I'm going to write out everything in the second term. Make sure you take that square with it. And then write them in red. And it says negative 3m, so I have to take that negative with it. And again, everything in that second parenthesis set, I'm going to write exactly as it is one more time. All right, so I'm going to start by distributing the first set. So again, we multiply the coefficients. 4 times 4 is 16. And I have to multiply the variables. N plus n is n squared plus 4n times 3. And watch what happens here. This is exciting. 4 times 3 is 12. I have an m squared and an n. Well, they're not alike, so I'm just going to squeeze those guys together. Looks just like that. So now we're going to move on to the other set. I have negative 3n times positive 4n. Negative 3 times 4 is a negative 12. I'm going to multiply my m and my n together, and that gives me mn. And I can't forget to distribute to the last term. I have a negative 3 and a positive 3. And I forgot a square here, didn't I? Let's go back. This guy should be negative 3 times positive 4, which is negative 12. I squeezed my m and n together, but I forgot. See, I made a mistake. I forgot to write down that square that was right there. So I got to squeeze that guy in there. And then lastly, I'll go back to my last term, negative 3m times positive 3m squared. Negative and a positive become a negative. 3 times 3 is 9. I have m's and I add the exponent, so I have 2 plus 2 is 4. We have to combine like terms, simplify. I have n squared, m to the 4th, and in the middle I have nm squared, mn squared. Even though they're in different order, doesn't matter. They are still alike. So I'm going to bring these guys together by adding the middle terms. I have a positive 12 plus a negative 12. So 12 minus 12 actually cancels each other out. It gives us a big 0. So I'm left with my first term and my last term. I double check, see if I have anything in common. Nope. So this is my final answer. We match it up and it looks like letter A is our answer.